Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. Today is going to be a special episode because I'm doing a roundup of everyone's work smarter, not harder answers from prior episodes so far this year. So I absolutely love asking the question, how do you work smarter, not harder, and keep things lean in your business? Because although a lot of the answers tend to be in the same categories, everyone always has a different way that they approach things. And sometimes people really surprise me with their answer. I have taken so much away from those conversations. And I know I hear from those of you who listen that it's one of your favorite parts of the interviews as well. So I hope you enjoy listening back to the roundup of everyone's answers for the past 6 months on how they work smarter, not harder, and keep things lean. And it inspires you to make some changes in your business or how you structure your work and approach things so that you can get more time back, get things done more efficiently, more effectively, and you end up having space for the things that you absolutely love. So with that, let's hear from some of the prior guests so far this year. All right. So there's one thing that I'm dying to know. This is the question I ask everybody, and I can't wait to hear what you have to share. And that is, how in your business do you work smarter, not harder, and keep things lean?
Ooh, good one. You take it, Lynn. Okay, so I would say that this is not our strongest suit, Krista. But one way is for all those people listening, hire Krista, and she didn't pay us to say that. But that is certainly one way, is to hire experts and coaches who can help you do exactly that. What we have learned to do, I would say, and it's taken time, is to really focus on what our kind of area zone of genius is. So what are we there to do? What do we love doing? And spending our time on that, and then hiring out the rest so that we're really doing the things that we love and that we're best at, and hiring someone else who's better at the things we're not the best at. So we have a team of assistants who help us with a lot of those things, and that has made all the difference for sure.
So if I'm really honest, this has been a very big work in progress for me. I used to kind of be a work hoarder and want to do all the things myself. But what I've come to find is, if I want to have the impact that I really want to have, I have to actually let go of things. So I've really been focusing on, what is the stuff that only I can do? Where is my expertise best used? Whether that's client service or, speaking or whatever that might be, and leaving the rest of the work to the team and making sure that the team is doing work that they love, that they feel empowered to, make their own decisions, and getting myself out of that grind of constantly doing things that I'm not really good at, but I was forcing myself to do. So that's really the big shift that I've been in, bringing the right team on board to actually help me so that I can do the things that allow me to thrive, for me to stay connected to the vision, and making sure the team is the right fit for all of that.
Keeping my eye on the priority, the goal, and having team to support.
You use my Trello board template that you get access to in the book, that not only helps you organize where all of your pitches go, but have built-in checklists for the entire process, for the repurposing process. So it makes it all one stop where you can also share it with your team. So these things are also things that you can hand off. And I even point out in the book which pieces you can hand off, which pieces you need to do yourself. And then I make it very simple, and I offer you templates and everything else so that it becomes easy, because I want it to be easy. I want it to be simple That's what I'm all about. It's what you're all about. And so you get access to the Trello board template so that you don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to figure out what the process should be. It's all there for you.
I think keep it simple. Don't reinvent the wheel. Number one, I learned that the hard way because I tried to reinvent a lot of stuff for a long time. And keep it simple. You don't have to do all of the things. Just figure out the one thing and do that one thing really well, whatever it is. That's been really helpful for me, even as I step into this new idea and work that I want to bring into the world. I find some of my old conditioned tendencies creeping back in of perfectionism and things that, help me procrastinate so that the work doesn't get done and all of that. And so I think just keep it simple and focus on the one thing.
Lean is so valuable. Again, when you're talking about profitability, that's it. If you can lean out, if you can do things that don't cause waste, that can improve the processes and production that you have in there, you're going to make your life a lot better, a lot easier, and the bottom line's going to be really helpful. So I think looking back and just reevaluating as frequently as you can and looking at those key performance indicators to say, am I on point? Right? And so if I go back to that one, instead of throwing out a whole new idea in it, but if you can really just monitor those key performance indicators, build them, review them, adjust them, keep doing it, keep looking at them. That's really the piece that I wholeheartedly believe in.
That's a really great question. So I mentioned earlier my habit tracking. So having this habit tracker in front of me all day is a really good reminder of what I think are the most important actions that I need to take on a daily basis for my business. And so I keep them in front of me. I remind myself of them every day. I have 4 of them for my business. I have some for my personal life too. But just keeping it in front of me, pencil, paper. I love tech, but I know if I get on my phone, it's all over. So I know that about myself. This is part of why I can't do TikTok, because I know how dangerous Instagram is. TikTok will be even worse for me. So I think just really keeping in mind those most important actions and putting them top on my list. So they're things I do every single day before I start working on client work, before I get distracted with emails and all the other things. I have certain actions that I take, and that has helped me stay really streamlined and moving forward and growing this year.
Okay, so there's a mantra that I hold very close to my heart, which you're going to love, and I'm sure you probably share. And I teach this to all of my clients, and it is the concept of doing less better. So instead of trying to be on all the platforms, instead of trying to do all the things or create all the offers, it's not about picking one, right? Some people go to the extreme of you have to have one offer, one channel, one audience, one message, one thing. I'm not in that camp necessarily. It's more like the essentialism approach. Only pick the things that really have impact. And if we follow the Pareto principle, we know that 80% of the things we do are not contributing to our bottom line. Only 20% really are. So when I say do less better, I think we focus our time on those 20% of things to really lean out the business, right? And then in 20% of our time, so we spend 80% of our time on those things. In the remaining 20% of our time, that's our sandbox. That's where we get to play and test and do all the fun things to fill out the remainder of time without impacting the bottom line of the business. Because usually what happens is people do work in these extremes and they will either totally lean out their business and then just do what's proven to work and only focus on repeatability and not have any fun and not grow and expand and learn and test and try new things. And then other people will constantly be throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. And we don't want to be guilty of either of those things. We want to fall right in the middle. So that's kind of how I do it and how I teach it. And it's how I've grown my own business by up to 1,800% in a year. So
I
work at making every client that I work with a raving fan. And that simplifies my marketing and advertising and all of that, because what happens is they love the experience. They love what we're doing. They feel so empowered. And so then what do? They go and share it with everyone else that they know, right? Like a good movie and a good restaurant. And I learned that from some of my mentors. And it just is, it's great because then I get to work with their friends and their family and their neighbors and other people that they know. And we just become a big, happy family. And so I love that I'm able to create that type of a community.
So the first thing that I do is I do not work on Fridays. And that forces a few things for me. It increases my work-life balance, or whatever we want to call the facade of what that means. But I don't work on Fridays. And that is smarter for me because every time I have strayed from that rule, I found that they're just not as productive days anyway for any meaningful conversations. So that's the first thing. The other thing that I've done is I have learned to create a team and delegate in a way that is methodical. I've learned to slow down to speed up. That was really, really hard for me. I would used to be like, just watch me do it and then just do it. But I've learned really the true importance of a really strong onboarding program and really strong training program for your team. And then everyone being bought into the impact so that you can delegate and they know the importance of something that may feel trivial or it may feel mundane. And really getting everyone bought into the importance of each of those tasks, each of those projects and activities. But really, I'm reading the Who, Not How, and 10X is better than 2X. And I'm obsessed with all these ideas of cutting the 80% so I can really focus on the 20% because that's the biggest place that we can make impact. So that's what I would tell you is delegation and 4 days a week.
So I'm going to give you a little bit of a roundabout answer, but it's really about, I have focused on keeping a very tiny team because every person you add to the team, regardless of the number of hours they work, adds exponential complexity in communication. And so I focus on keeping my team tiny, but also focused on what they're working on. And part of what we do in the Work Smarter, Not Harder is we use the tools that we use with our clients, which seems really obvious, but it's surprising the number of coaches, consultants, whatever, that if you really talk to them, they don't actually leverage the tools that they're telling their people to use. And one of our tools is what we call the weekly course of action, which is an asynchronous accountability tool that only takes a few minutes every week to update. I mean, really, I usually spend 5-10 minutes at the most updating my own. And we each have our own weekly course of action tool that we use. And then we look at each other's, which allows us to know where everyone is, what they got done that week, and what they're looking at doing the following week, which saves a ton of time in meetings and communication, but we're able to stay really on top of it. So because it's a tiny team, I don't have, dozens of those to look at. I have a few of those to look at, which takes another 10, maybe 15 minutes on Monday to review what their update was that they did on Friday. But in probably 25 minutes, we probably save an hour to an hour and a half meeting, probably every week. But we really feel like we're very much in touch with one another. So it's kind of a two combo thing of that's the physical thing I do, but that's part of staying lean is actually focusing on keeping a tiny team for as long as reasonably possible. I'm not afraid to add people when I need to, but also not just adding people because I can.
Yeah, I have this wise client who told me not long ago, she said, Every time you put in, you're doing something, think, how can I do this in a more simple way? How can it be simpler? How can it be simpler? So I have really taken that on as a mantra and have made simplicity my goal, because I can get a little too fancy, oh, I want to put this in place and this in place and launch this and that. And I've really dialed things back so that it's super easy for me to understand what's going on when and make it as simple as possible. So just like the book writing process, really, I've tried to make it as simple as possible and emotionally supportive as possible. And so that's what I do for myself and my business too, is just keep it simple. And it just makes it all more fun and enjoyable if it's more simple and I don't have to think really hard about, wait, how did I do that last time? And so if it's streamlined, that makes me happy.
Yeah, you are completely and entirely speaking my language. So yes to that.
Not that I'm always perfect at it, Krista. I'm sure I could use a lot of help in that area, but that's my goal.
I love it. So any final tips before we wrap up the episode on how you can unleash your impact with a book?
Yeah. So, we talked about these fear dragons and things that pop up that can keep you scared or just make your voice not be heard. And so I have another quote from another client who he told me, and this sticks with me so powerfully: believe in the potency of your own experience.
That's good.
It's really good at, because sometimes we're shy about telling our stories or being vulnerable or just getting our message out there. But if it's, you've lived through these things, you have a unique perspective. So if you can just put a little more belief in the power of your own experience, then that will help you do great things.
I hope you found a ton of value in this week's roundup, looking back at some of the answers that prior guests had shared on how they work smarter, not harder, and keep things lean. I hope it gave you all sorts of ideas of things that you can do to get yourself back more time, to lean things out, and ultimately to scale in a more simple and sustainable way. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you again next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. If you have not yet taken our scalability assessment, I invite you to head to leanoutmethod.com/assessment and take our interactive assessment that's going to help you look at how simple, how sustainable, and how scalable your business currently is. It includes personalized recommendations of where to focus next to get your time back, to increase your impact, increase your profits, and ultimately step into your rich, fulfilled life. And finally, we'd love to see you inside our signature program, Simplify to Scale. You can head to leanoutmethod.com/ops to find all of the details on how we can help you uplevel your operations and get out of the day-to-day of your business.